A very interesting gambling scenario, Brian Hooper. Theoretically, but this is something that could happen. You realize that the way that a major retail sportsbook, DraftKings, FanDuel, Underdog, whoever, has an error in the way that they compound the odds for home runs, but only with 4 home runs, or call it hockey. So let's say the odds of Alexander Ovechkin and Nathan McKinnon each scoring 3 or more goals in an individual game. It's totally broken. They're giving you, 5x the real odds, 3x the real odds, 2x the real odds. How would you approach that situation? These are insanely tail outcomes, right? It like beyond tail. We're talking you could bet this every day for 10 years and never hit. You're getting it in good. Your math is showing you get a 200% edge on these wagers. But how would you approach that?
That's funny you said it, because it'll take so long to realize your EV. Because I was thinking, anytime I hear like a bet that's that far off, you might not want to bet it, just because if it's an error and then they're going to put you in the sharp category and then limit you if you haven't been limited already. That was like my initial instinct of like, oh, it's a trap. You don't bet it.
Well, but they wouldn't. Theoretically, in this scenario, they don't realize it because it never hits.
Right.
It takes their software months, maybe weeks to realize their error.
Isn't that like a really good bet then? Like, if you can't get targeted as a skill player to be limited because it takes so long to realize your EV, that it seems like a really solid bet. I mean, so like that happens like what? How many? 3 goals is it? What? How many goals?
Let's say it's let's say it's for the Winnipeg Jets and the Dallas Stars are playing each other in the Western Conference semifinals. So let's say it's Mark Scheifele to record 3 or more goals and Mikko Rantanen to record 3 or more goals. And let's say I'm making these numbers up. Please, yeah. I don't have a screen pulled up, but let's say it's 100-1, which I'm sure the books would not give you anything near that generous. Right. But let's say it's the true odds for each are 50-1, but the book is giving you 100-1. Or let's make it this easier. Let's say your true odds are this happens 1 in every 500 games. The book is giving you 1 in every 1,000 games. So you get 1,000-1 on your money from the book. So if you're doing this like full Kelly or whatever, you'd be saying they're giving you twice as good of odds than on your simulation.
Right. Yeah. I get it now. I get it. It reminds me of the kind of the lottery example I've talked about over the years, where there are times when the lottery has a slight edge,
slight positive value
when it rolls over so many times. It's just, there's no one rich enough. I think this is right. Maybe it's wrong, but I think there's no one rich enough, not even Elon or Bezos,
to buy up the whole pool.
Well, not to realize their edge, that their bankroll's so small, essentially. Like, they would need way more money to make it where they could bet this
to where they could guarantee that they'd realize their edge.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, now it's such a small percentage of their bankroll, I don't think it matters, unless they're buying it all up, like you said. So I guess that's what I would say the answer is. Is just bet smaller and still bet it. I don't see why you wouldn't bet it. Like, I don't know. Is this a trick question?
No, it's not a trick question, because this is the sort of thing that you could just find if you were clicking around on your, let's say I'm on Underdog, and just due to the way things are computed, sometimes you can get different odds, even if the numbers are the same, just because that is the way that these programs work. So let's say I toss in Jason Dominguez to hit a home run, Fernando Tatis to steal a base, and it gives me one number. Let's say it gives me 12x on that. And then I add in different legs. I'm trying Jaylen Brown over made threes, Steph Curry over assists, and the numbers are changing, and it seems to be a break. That basically, when computing this either this DFS pick'em entry on Underdog or a same game parlay on DraftKings or whatever, that you can put in something that is the same base number, so something that is plus 150 both ways, but it compounds differently. You will find this stuff if you click around long enough in Underdog or your sportsbook of choice. You will find stuff like this where their computer just hasn't gotten there yet, because there's only so many permutations that they can calculate. You're playing against their risk management computer sims or whatever. I guess it's probably not a sim, or maybe it is a sim.
And the real world problem is these odds are like, it's going to happen so rarely that most bros, like, they still want to bet $5-10 or something. And it's like, dude, you need like $800,000 bankroll before you can make a $5 bet on this, something
Exactly.
like what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You'd have to run the numbers, see what the minimum bet allowed is and stuff.
Well, see, so I'm saying don't approach this like a sim, bro. I'm saying you're just average take cast listener, and
Just
you
bet it.
realize that your book has something wrong. The computation in their same game parlay is wrong. And you want to, it's just like, you bet those things knowing that the reality of them conveying is so low? I mean, the answer is probably yes. The answer is just like, you take your chances, right? You just say, I found this error. It's definitely an error. I probably won't win, but it'd be sick if I did.
I mean, if your real life bankroll is like $300 or something, you don't. I think you don't actually bet the $5. Like, but I think, like, if your real life bankroll is 10 grand or something, I'd imagine you could bet the $5 or whatever the minimum is.
Here's an interesting one, because I don't even really know the way to think about this, but on Underdog specifically, they offer these discounts or like, so you go into the pick'em tab, and it turns Jason Tatum's points into 0, right? So effectively it's like a free square. And you can then add in another leg, right? So you add in the second part of the entry, and you do, LeBron James over 24.5. So something that I've been doing, because they recently changed my max on these from $10 to $100, I think because I've punted off a lot, is I will just take my discounted line, my Jason Tatum over 0 points, and then I will slide another one down. So if Jalen Brunson's points line, I mean, I know because I literally did this one last night. Jalen Brunson's line is 26.5, and I just slide it down to the lowest, which I think was 20.5 last night. Basically, betting your minus 300. But my mental calculation, and you can tell me if this is smart, stupid, or neither, is this is basically Underdog just giving me a free, I think it translates to $83, because I'm getting the one leg for free. So they're then basically allowing me to bet Jalen Brunson over 20 points at even money instead of at minus 500 or whatever.
Yeah, it's free Skolansky bucks.
Free Skolansky bucks,
which is legal tender now. I don't know. I
don't know. I don't know. I think we might have been. we might have been led astray. We were promised.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. That is a pretty fun promo, actually, that they do there. That's funny. I wonder if they bumped anyone else up to 100. Do you know we had another, like, last week on Lulz, we did another, like, gambling regulation addiction topic guest.
Yes.
I don't know if you listen to it. So it's just funny because that kind of, it's like, oh, I've been losing and they upped my increase. It's like,
well, I mean, I would assume lifetime in pick'ems. I don't know. I'm probably down $1,000 or something. I actually don't know, because I have hit a couple 8-leggers, and I don't know how to translate that to, like, disappearing $15,000 in best ball or whatever. But $100 max is not crazy, right? $100 max is like, if I lose one of those, am I a little tilted? Yes, because no one wants to lose $100. But it is mostly, I just view it, and I think from, like, a business sense for them, it's like, yeah, dude, maybe he would not have entered a pick'em at all, but we gave him this discount, so now he's at the pick'em screen looking. Makes a lot of sense from their perspective, I think.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you take out the like gambling bad zeitgeist of the country that a lot of the country has, it's not like it's just like a company trying to get more customers, like a movie theater having free popcorn
Right.
refills or
Yes.
something.
Same thing. Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. But when you add in gambling addiction and all that other and just the kind of the sinfulness ideology, it's like,
Yes.
oh, now you're a predator.
Well, it's so funny because like I obviously am like I am not a professional gambler. I don't consider myself that. So like when and sports betting is not legal in Missouri yet. It will be soon, hopefully maybe even in June. The way I treat the sports betting apps, like I go on vacation to Illinois or whatever, I will use up all the promos they give me. So like whatever free, sweat free, same game parlay, whatever. Um, but I'm basically never making a wager without a promo ever.
Mm, that's smart. That's
That's
smart.
just that's at least my way. You know what it is? It's my way of knowing I am probably a negative expected value gambler, like without any mathematical model or anything. But at least if it's a sweat free or a discount, if the price goes from minus 110 to plus 150, then I'm at least convincing myself that if I were to make this wager 100 times, it would be a winning wager.
Yeah, I think like sometimes they're not that great, but I think the majority of times, if you just do some decent promo, like you're at least breaking even. Like it's pretty. You got to be like just the entertainment. It's like free entertainment essentially. I think long term, like most of those promos are pretty decent.
Yeah.
Some of them some of them are like they take the parlay down from like really really bad to just bad.
To just
But
bad. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
do
You
you
get
think like I was watching a bunch of Norm Macdonald stuff over the weekend, and he's famously addicted to gambling, and like they were saying like they'd see him on the computer all day like researching sports and stuff.
yeah.
And then one of the comics told like a hilarious bit. It was like I don't know, David Spade or whatever was like he texted him and he replied like 4 days later, "Hey, do you like money?" Yes, Norm, I like money. Do you like free money? It leads him on for like 10 minutes. He goes, then take the Blackhawks minus 145. That's it. Like, but I wonder if there is anything that you could have done for him. Cause I was thinking like like the new Bales thing, Gambly or whatever.
Partner of the program, Gambly and Takes.
Partner, there you go. Like something like that. I'm trying to think of like, because it feels like a lot of these type of guys, they're like today, there's 3 baseball games on at different times, and I'm going to the bar, so I want to bet these 3 games specifically. It feels like you could just go like, what's
You
the
could
best bets?
literally you could go to Gambly and you could say, I need plus EV wagers for these 3 games. What
Mhm.
sports books do I bet them at? How do I do them? In what combination? Yeah. I mean, that is literally what Gambly is for, essentially.
And like like normally like with ETR stuff or the stuff we're thinking about doing or stuff, it's like time sensitive. It's you gotta bet that exact thing or don't bet. If it changes, don't bet it.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
not good for it. Like, and it's also hard to put your like we're not gambling addicts. We're not gonna like I mean not like these guys, right, who like ruin their
Yeah, I
life.
was gonna say, I mean, am I a gambling addict? Maybe not in the way you'd think of it, but I'm also not a gambling addict, right? Like
Yeah,
I always have action on something.
right. But I mean, clearly we gamble a lot, but like the way like a crackhead ruins his life or something, a gambling addict ruins their life. I'm not.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure they care still. It's hard to like put my head in theirs and go like, oh, here's what would work. But I feel like that might do something for like Norm Macdonald, maybe like that kind of type of guy. But then again, I could just see them going like, no, 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 no. The White Sox are due.
I was gonna say they would be like, I don't care about this plus EV nonsense. Like this is the play of the day. My question was more, are people still researching sports to win bets? That is my question to you: is are people like Norm Macdonald, do they still sit on their computer and look at all the you know, they go to Fangraphs and they check the WOBA and the K rate and stuff, or are we past that and now we have two categories of guy? We have parlay culture kid who just like follows a dub club guy and tails their idiotic same game parlays, or total opposite, people who know that there's no value. Anything you are going to find about a game, it's already been found. There's nothing that you are going to discover in the statistical milieu that is not accounted for in the line. So just build a model to try and beat the lines. Like, are people still like, I was thinking about how when I used to play Major League Baseball DFS, like before I'd set a lineup, you know, I'd look at the Fangraphs page for the starting pitchers. You know, I'd sort by isolated slugging versus left-handed starting pitching, all that. I mean, now all I do is fire up Run the Sims and look at the projections and team totals, and I'm like, oh, this team total's high and the offense is kind of lower owned. All right, boom, click. That's all I do, you know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's two broad categories: those who want to try hard to win, and everyone else. And then in the everyone else category, there's like a whole bunch of different. Like, there's also bros who just, I'm going to B-dubs this weekend with my buddy, so I'm going to bet that weekend.
Yeah,
I don't care what it is. It's just pure, and I'm bored. The game's on. I'm gonna bet. There's guys who follow the pick, like you said, like the Pick'em Bros on Twitter. I think that is also too, like, the better AI gets, the more people are gonna be falling for that type of content, because they'll just get better and better at selling and making it look legit, that they have some sort of edge. And it won't even be like a human. It'll just be like those AI girls.
man. Okay, this is I hadn't even planned on talking about this, but we should talk about AI. So I've been trying to mostly just to test and see what is capable. I've been trying to build a model in ChatGPT.
Uh-huh.
So a model for projecting college players, college running backs and wide receivers to the NFL, you know, in terms of like, this is what prospects who did roughly this, who weigh roughly this, who are roughly this tall, do when they're drafted roughly in this area of the NFL draft. And I mean, I've probably given it, I don't know, 8-9 hours of time and have gotten effectively nowhere, right? I don't know how to code. I am not a genius prompter, right?
Yeah.
Like, the prompting is a skill. There are a couple of different reasons for it. Weirdly, the biggest issue that I've run into with this is maybe not what you'd anticipate. I certainly did not anticipate it. ChatGPT knows what I'm asking it to do. I'm giving it and it is able to repeat to me exactly what I want, you know, basically. But the thing I'm running into is I need to generate these massive data sets, like huge, like 6,000 player data sets, right? And there is a memory issue that basically it can't batch together everything I need into one spot. It's all these disparate sheets, disparate elements. And, you know, I don't know how to code. I don't know how to use Python. I don't know how to use R. I don't know how to do any of this shit. So I don't need, but for this to happen, I would need ChatGPT to do it for me. And basically the way it exists now, it just can't.
Right.
Which I just would, like, the way people talk about AI, you'd be like, dude, that's easy. What are you talking about? It's easy. You just type in like 4 sentences and it just does it for you. So I'm wondering, based on your experience, like, do you think actually, maybe this is a better question. Someone who is building a model in ChatGPT, how are they doing it? Like, do they know how to code? Are they able to take the outputs and put them into like Python or whatever? Like, what is the step I'm missing?
That's the step. I was like, the way you were doing it, I was kind of surprised. It's like, yeah, that'll never work.
It'll never work.
Yeah, it's not. I feel like the AIs are kind of like, right now there's specific ones, right? Like, there's a medical specific one,
right?
They're because they're trained on specific data, and then ChatGPT is more like the general Google, you know, like the more kind of can answer everything, Wikipedia, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just heard on a podcast, someone who can code a little bit said that they were surprised by Grok for helping them code, by the way. And I was like, oh, I've never tried Grok for helping the code. That's interesting. maybe it's good. Grok, by the way, I is woke. By the way, I
Yeah,
was,
we're saving this for the back half.
yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let me talk about the coding then. So when I first started with R, that was the like the first one I started getting into, was my guy who was actually coding for me, like taking all my ideas and like I want to get this out of Excel and make it more robust, and I want to do this and this, etc. All the stuff we talk about at Endgame basically. And he's like, okay, well then you need to install R. Here's how you install it. Here's the coding. Here's the console. Here's how it kind of looks and works. And if you do this, then it runs this script. And I'm like, oh, like so I had someone holding my hand for that
Yeah.
that first lesson or
But
two.
but theoretically, ChatGPT could actually hold your hand doing that.
Maybe, but it's a lot easier when you have like a human.
So
Maybe it'll
again,
get maybe it'll get better.
based on my experience, ChatGPT was like the next step would be taking this into Python or whatever, and then it
Yeah.
would be like do X, Y. And I'm just like, I actually have no interest in this. It's not.
It's lame. Yeah.
Well, learning how to code in 2025 would be like, I don't know. It'd be like getting really into subprime mortgages in 2007
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe ChatGPT can't do it now, but it will be able to in 2 years or whatever. Like it's totally.
Yeah. It'd be like getting a job at the USAID, like
Yes.
6 months ago. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's no longer useful, or like a useless degree in college. Totally.
Now,
You spent 9 hours though, so I would say that would probably be enough if you would have started from there, from scratch.
yes. Well, basically, I mean, I would say 40% of that 9 hours was me just being like, why can't you do this? Like, we've already done this. So, like, I generate the whole data set. So, like, I have a data set, if anyone wants it, I have a data set of every college player, combine, height, weight, size, speed, all their college stuff, college production, whatever. I have that in a huge CSV. I just can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Because the next step of joining that, because then the next step was joining that with their NFL production, and then the back test to be like, how good were these guys in the NFL? And so I'm just missing the links in between the spot. But my large point about all of this was it makes it's harder for me to be an AI doomer when I'm actually using AI, and I'm like, this is so far away. This is so far away from taking anyone's job. Like, it'll take away. You know what I was thinking? Here's a job it would take away. There's no reason for a paralegal to exist when some law ChatGPT exists. But like, dude, complex jobs, anything that requires a little bit of art, anything that requires a little bit of intuition. I mean, maybe 5 years from now you will not be safe, but you're definitely safe right now because it like I get stuck between I hate my fellow brethren on the left who are like AI, it's soulless. It's like, dude, shut up. Just do your Google search on ChatGPT instead of Google, right? Like, what are you Google's biggest supporter? Famously non-authoritarian, woke Google. Yeah, okay, totally. But then I also hate the there are I just am saying his name because I can think of it, like Nick Carter, who's a big Bitcoin crypto guy. He just is like always proselytizing AI. It's like, dude, also grow up. This is not the solve to all of humanity's problems. Like, you just and this is just obviously a larger point about society, which is that no one can kind of just have the correct opinion on things. You have to totally amplify your opinion one way or the other. Like, AI is useful right now, but it ain't the world ain't changed yet, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree pretty much with everything you said there. And like just the quick societal point, it is I was just thinking about this I just got my oil change on the drive back. I was like, society, because I talked to the mechanic there, it's BSing with him, bro style. And I was thinking, like, man, society like forces you to pick sides. It's like forcing people to pick, like, even if you want to be like, hey, I think this is wrong and this is wrong on both sides, it's more and more forcing your hand to be like, you don't get to be in between anymore. But on AI, I totally agree with you. And it's also this weird ebb and flow. Like, you'll try to code something out like you did, And it's like the most frustrating thing, and it didn't remember something you said earlier. Like,
Yes. Oh,
why
that is like
are you
that.
doing that?
The not remembering thing is like basically to the point that I'm like, I'm not trying. This was like the first like project, quote unquote, that I tried to do in ChatGPT, to the point that like I just am not doing that until there's a
Yeah,
meaningful update with the memory. I'm not even gonna try and learn. Like I'm not. I'm just totally over it.
it's
It's
super
too way
frustrating.
too frustrating.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
my ChatGPT, the things I've called ChatGPT, if that got out in the public, I'm definitely canceled because I've called it horrible
I
things.
I was actually just doing it to do a super easy chore last week. I just needed it to name match two CSVs, and it would not do. I had the sheet had 250 rows, and it would not do all 250 at once. And I said, if you don't do all 250 at once, I'm canceling my subscription. I'm just done. I'm leaving Chat, and it still didn't do it. It still didn't
Mm,
do it. It said, okay, I totally understand you're frustrated. Yada yada. Here you go. And then it still didn't do it.
yeah,
So,
it's
you guys are, if you're very scared about AI becoming sentient and taking over the earth, you have some time left. Your days are. I mean, eventually they're going to get really good, but
yeah. Who knows?
they're very far away right now.
But like the ebb and flow I was talking about is the other side of that too, because then there'll be days. So like when we did that lulls last week, and our guest Isaac, who's a smart young guy, brought up like suicide rates, and I'm like, are those adjusted for age and I mean gender? Because men are way more likely to actually commit it than women. Men are way more likely to sports bet, to gamble, and he didn't know. So I looked it up on ChatGPT and I posted on Twitter the results, and it gave you like this very concise, nice little table that you can click links and go, and you could do, and I did that in like 45 seconds, right?
Yes.
That's not happening pre Chat GPT. You'd have to go through Google and be like, okay, is this a real website? How's that? I know if this not,
But
like,
the funny thing is you never know what it's going to be. So like you never know when you're entering into a query, is this going to be something that ChatGPT can just easily solve, or is this going to be a 15-minute time suck that never gets me where I'm needing to
yeah,
go and just like ruins my day? You it's a total it's a wild, you just do not know heading into it.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And it's you like, because this is funny because it's like when you just said, it's like, getting a worthless degree is like learning the code right now. Like prompting is like a skill with these AIs too. Like what questions do you ask it specifically? Like I'm always like adding at the end, be concise or be brief, because it will spew gobbledygook at you if you ask it the wrong question. So like prompting it is so important to it getting the right answer or the answer you're looking for. And I feel like that could be like a class in high school, like how to prompt an AI to give you what you want for your research for school or whatever. But like by the time that class is over, like AI might be so
Every
good,
I was going to say everything you learned is going to be useless.
everything you learn is going to be useless. So,
All
but
right.
like so like we're shitting on it, but also expecting it to eventually be awesome and being surprised by it quite frequently. So it's still super fucking impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go overwhelming with my praise because it's currently just making me insanely angry.
Yeah, because you
But
just wasted 9 hours trying to code with it. Which is so frustrating. I know. I
yeah,
empathize with you. But like but like I mean, it's way better than Google.
yeah. Well, Google. What's funny is Google did this to themselves because they ruined their own search. Google ruined their own search by changing the way SEO worked and by placing too much emphasis on sponsors stuff. By you get sponsored results like your first like 6 results, and then sometimes even some of the sponsor results are hidden. So you'll get so you scroll past the sponsors, you scroll past whatever, and then the first 3 results are still sponsored, but they're like hidden sponsored. Um I run into this a lot because I'm a homeowner. So I will just have to be like plumber, lawn maintenance, whatever. Right. So like I'm Googling things to try and find stuff for my house or whatever all the time. And another thing is it never connects you Google does a terrible job at helping you find. You might know about this. I want local people to help me with my stuff. So like when actually funny, I need a plumber today. I have a leak underneath my sink. I tried to fix it. I made it worse. Surprising no one. Um, I want a guy who has been plumbing in St. Louis for 17 years and has worked in the trades forever. I don't want to be connected to some soulless entity that's based out of Costa Mesa, Arizona, and then puts me in touch with a contractor. I don't want to be dealing with a third party intermediary, and that finding direct local contact is like impossible now. I recently learned this as well. Because you can pay a ton of money to Google or to a Google ad agency, whatever, another third party to be at the top of the Google listing. And then you also pay per hit, right? So every time your Google sponsored result gets a click, you have to pay on top of that. So if you're like, let's say you're a small local plumber and you want to do some advertising, you got to pay this ad agency whatever money. Then every time someone clicks on your link, you have to pay that ad agency or Google itself more money. That is a game you can't win. Man, that's a game destined for you to lose. So yeah, Google is just totally useless now.
It makes. I just watched this demolition of the Sears company headquarters are here in Hoffman Estates, not super far from here. And it just makes me think about kind of like, like lefties always hating the biggest business of their time and like how evil they are, and it's like
they are evil.
They always go under eventually. But the argument like Amazon's going to take over the world. It's like, no, they're going to go under too. Eventually it'll happen.
Amazon's not going to go on. Amazon is too big.
It will eventually happen. It will. Like do you know how big Sears Roebuck and Kmart were back in the day? And like,
they were not woke.
What a gigantic failure. And I was looking at their CEOs and stuff. And like, after I watched this demolition thing, I went down the rabbit hole and it's like, how do you not see the internet coming, and right. These CEOs, they're just these huge companies. The Sears Tower is, in Chicago is named after their company. They're going, no, we're not, no one's going to touch us. No one. And then 10 years later, 15 years later, they're completely bankrupt and their billions and billions of dollars headquarter is getting destroyed. And the same thing will happen to Amazon. I mean, and Google's had its time too. And it's like, you can't, it's because these CEOs aren't the same guys who started the company. Like you almost have to like get lucky with the next person in charge and just hope they're just as good, just as driven.
Just like being a king, Brian.
It is just exactly, yeah. It is just
Curtis Yarvin,
or even any ideology for ruling. Like eventually you're going to be dead and your kids are going to be in charge, or your kids will be voting, and so like they might vote for something completely different.
Yeah,
and
actually, go ahead.
Like the point of like when people freak out over Amazon or something, it's like, I promise you, it will not be around forever. And as soon as Bezos, he's getting more into this rocket ship stuff like that. As soon as he stopped, same thing with Elon, although he's kind of crazy, but eventually Tesla will suck.
Yeah, eventually
they all do. It's impossible.
Yeah, eventually it'll suck. They certainly don't suck now. I actually thought about you the other day. I just read a big long book about the War of the Roses, which was like the English civil wars, basically a bunch of wars fought for the crown of England between like I think 1399 and 1485, which basically came about because the guy who was the longest reigning monarch during that period was an idiot. I mean, just more like simply put, like basically the guy who was in charge of all of England was a big dullard because he was dynastically set to be the king. His dad died when he was like 4 months old, so he got ruled by regents or whatever. And it did just make me think like even even having a king, right? This is something you and I have talked about before, of like the appeal of monarchy, and even a king, right, is even a kingship, a dynastic monarchy is no guarantee of governmental competence, of security. Like, let's say you're the most conservative reactionary. Let's say you're J.R.R. Tolkien, right? Let's not even make this mega, right? Like, so like more fascist type stuff. But let's literally say you truly want things to be like they were in the 1700s. Even having a king would not get you there, because you're gambling. You're gambling that the monarch is competent.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. But the reason you want a CEO slash monarch or whatever is because of the incentives and consequences structures better than the current system. That's the argument. So like, even though the awesome monarch's kid might be an idiot, he still has an incentive to pass on wealth to his kid. He loses when the country loses. These are all their arguments. I can imagine people like, these idiots like monarchy, but like, where like currently normal politicians, they can just spend, put us in $37 trillion in debt and then retire. It doesn't matter to them. Costs them nothing. And in fact, they benefit from it. They benefit.
So actually, reading this book, I had kind of an alternate explanation, which is that a huge part of being a king historically was keeping the nobles happy, gifting them land, setting up factions, right? So like, oh, this one faction, we really like them, so we're going to gift them a lot. This other faction, they didn't help us come to power, so we actually hate them. Really not that dissimilar from the way it works now, where we have, blatant cronyism. We have the president is just getting bribed in the open now via the meme coins. Like, it's actually really, what it kind of made me think was, of just like, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just always the people in power are desperate to cling to power, and the people who don't have any power desperately want to cling to power. And the only thing that matters is getting power. And the only thing that matters is acquiring more power. And it's all a game, regardless of how you get to power. It's all a game of keeping, losing, and trading power.
Definitely. And totally right with the king thing. Like, people think like, oh, this one king held, like even Genghis Khan, like he held all these countries hostage by himself. It's like, yeah, no, you can't do that. You need knights. You need, it's elites, essentially. Like, your elites on your side have to be competent, and they need to be incentivized to help you. And you're right, it is all about power. I mean, I've been saying this, Davis, for years with you. It's and like, the only good use of power, these aren't my ideas, obviously, but the only good use of power is to get more power, right? You don't use your power to help the local orphanage for whatever. Like, you only use it to gain more power.
Again, another very funny thing about this, some of the weakest kings in, I apologize for the very westernized view of this, but I just don't know shit about Chinese history or Japanese history or whatever. Really, I really only know English kings. Some of the weakest ones were the super religious ones, who were like, we need to make sure that the poor are fed. We need to really have a great relationship with the church. We need, that type of thing, because they were actually trying to make life better for the lowest common denominator. And it meant that they didn't raise enough power. Well, they didn't raise enough funds for war, so they were not like doing like they weren't trying to like, basically. And again, anyone listening to this, if I am like getting details wrong here, I'm not a medieval historian, but like, based on my understanding, a lot of English history was, the better a king was doing, the better things were in England, the more likely they were to try and take over France, to basically go to France and try and conquer France, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if a king had no interest in that, he was kind of a wimp. Like, and the people kind of hated it. Like, the people would rally behind a king who was like, yeah, fuck yeah, we're going to go take over France.
I mean, even back into the Roman times, like, conquering and destroying and killing the other tribe is just,
holding a triumph. That was what life was all about.
Yeah, completely. The I went another rabbit hole that this kind of dovetails with, at least historically, anyways. I was listening to this podcast. So this is a slight change of subject, but I think you'll still find it interesting. Let me start. This podcast reminded me of this book I read. It's called A Brief History of Everything, I think. I read it like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he had this like one little stat in the book that I made like a trivia question out of. It's you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents, 16, so 32, so forth. You take that number, that power number, back to like Roman times, just for Davis Mattek. That's more people than that's ever lived on planet Earth. How's that possible?
Incest.
Right. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And so on the podcast, this guy said, this one, which I hadn't heard, is for every ancestor down that line, you have 2 females for every 1 male. Did you know that one?
No, I explained that to me.
Right. It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So that's another trivia question. So like I had to do this rabbit hole search on this, and it is true.
Okay.
That you have 2 females for every male. How do you want to reason through? You just want me to tell you?
It's just like that's not making any
no,
sense
because
to me.
You live in 2025.
Yeah. You have so let's simplify this even further. Let me try and you guys can laugh at me trying to logic this out. So effectively, that would mean for every grandmother or for every grandfather you have historically, you have 2 grandmothers. Like great, whatever.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
What would make that? I don't know. I don't know what would make that most likely.
Well, I mean, it is incest as part of that, cousin fucking. But it's men who have multiple kids with multiple women.
And sure.
And then their ancestors eventually having kids together. So like, let's say like, this is why Genghis Khan has like X percent.
10% of the world's population is
whatever.
Genghis Khan or whatever.
Right. So that limits the amount of, so anyway, so I thought that was fascinating. And then I'm like, wait a second. This lines up with all the new dating stats. Oh, another thing is cuckoldry. And this kind of ties into, I don't know if you saw that quote by Tony Gilroy, our favorite, current favorite director of Star Wars, where he said after the sexual assault scene, he goes, "Hey, we're all a product of rape." Did you see that?
Yeah, which he's right. I mean,
but yeah, along the ancestral tree, it's just like a mathematical assumption that has happened. And cuckoldry too is another one that someone along your tree who thought he was your great grandfather's dad was actually not, is another one, which can also improve. Here's another reason is war. The obvious ones like World War II. Germany lost 9 million of their like 32 million men.
Yeah.
And so it's like you just have no choice. Like that's just going to happen. So there is a whole bunch of reasons for it. But anyways, the modern thing is this is happening with the dating apps. So like if you look at the swipe data and stuff, and they've publicly released this for like OkCupid and some others, and it's just universal across every app that like girls are interested in the top 10% or so, top 10, 20% of men, and not interested in like even judging based on looks too. They could tell that men have a normal distribution, right? So like an average looking person should be a 5, right? And then half the people logically should be above that, and half the people should be under that. But for women, it's only like 5% of men, or maybe 10 or something like that. A very small number are like above a 6. Right. So like they have like a, like an exponential graph of most men are, they consider not attractive.
I mean, yeah, this brings us to the ultimate point, of all of our conversations, which is that the internet was a mistake.
Well, hold on. This is why I think it's kind of interesting. Is because I was talking to ChatGPT about this, and I go, well, doesn't that logic? So, like, if you grant this, that women are most free for sexual encounters, doing what they want with their lives now
It's interesting that it hews towards
than
historical
ever in
trends.
history.
Yeah.
Which I think you have to grant that they are. They're the
Sure.
freest they can. I mean, birth control, just right off the bat, just crushes.
Right.
Education levels, they're more educated than men. They have higher paying jobs until they turn like 28 or something on average. And if they don't have kids, they're still higher. They have dating apps. There's been like OnlyFans, way less sexual shaming than even when I was growing up. I think clearly. Compare this to like
which is
1400.
funny. So that's just really funny because Gen Z, based on my reading, is totally against that. They don't leave the house. They don't drink. They are not meeting. They're not entering into relationships. There are, greater amounts of abstinence, men and women, of that generation. And it's because of the internet. It's because the internet is a mistake. It's just made people too inside themselves.
And this is the thing. So like I know some people probably hear this stuff and they start thinking like, oh, well, he means this about women. No one's bad here, right? No guys aren't bad here, but this is, I think, or women aren't bad here, guys aren't bad here. It's just interesting to look at the data for a second. And so like, there's like, what are the implications there then? What do these guys do then, right? Like, let's just say this trend is the thing. Well, first of all, let's go back to the other point. So I was going over this with ChatGPT. So if we're 2-to-1 now, 2 female ancestors for every one with your DNA currently on average, what was it before? Because that's not the way it's been for the last at least couple hundred years, right? Like last couple hundred been
as population has grown exponentially.
Your average guy has a better chance. And so according to ChatGPT, like again, we were just bitching about who knows if it's right. It started in like the late 1200s, that trend. And it was directly in line with the expansion of popularity of Christianity. So it was through Christianity and like the pressure, the social pressure, that average guys started having kids up until like the 1700s, I want to say. And then the majority of guys started having kids. Prior to that, 60% plus on average, 60% is the low, sometimes 80% of men did not reproduce throughout.
For a lot of reasons. They were serfs, they died young, they had to go to war, like lots of reasons for that. But yeah, I mean, if you just look at a normal distribution, there are so many men alive today who would have been like stabbed by a Persian 2,000 years ago.
I love how you went Persian. That's great. But listen, but there's a big, again, I'm not saying anyone's wrong here because all this is evolution in my opinion, but a big part of this is evolutionary based. There's a big, obvious, logical entailment here, which is when women are at their most free. I think it's impossible to argue against that they're most free now. They revert back to the pre-1200 ratio of dating more men. Now they're not having kids because of birth control.
Right.
But the data shows on these dating apps that the majority of women are competing for it's called hypergamy, right? And it's an evolutionary thing that makes total sense. Women have to.
This conversation would go so hard on 4chan if the feds didn't shut it down. They would be loving.
Did you see that it was like 60% Israeli IP addresses on 4chan when they busted them?
I believe it.
Yeah, it's a lot of these popular people are, I think, complete phonies, and they're going to. Oh, I wanted to ask you about that too, the woke right thing. But let's just stick on this concept. So women have they have to have kids. Right? Or like, especially evolutionary wise, they would get pregnant. They'd be super vulnerable for 9 months till they gave birth, and they have to carry around this kid, and they need someone to provide them resources and stuff. So it makes perfect sense for a woman to want to marry up socioeconomically, status wise. Someone who's in the tribe who has higher status is more likely to protect your kids. So like it makes complete sense that they would behave this way, and guys vice versa, where it's hard to reproduce, right? If only 20% of guys are reproducing, you take your opportunities when they come, dummy, right? So like the way people behave makes total sense. But it's interesting that as we get to this like inverse bell-shaped curve of reproduction, right? Even though people aren't having kids now because of birth control, women are actually, the more free they are reverting to pre-Christianity tendencies. So like when you said like, yeah, well, like, because there's people who are serfs, blah, blah, blah. I think the more overriding evidence because of this new trend is it's not because they were serfs or anything like that. It's because women prefer to marry up.
Oh, who wouldn't?
So like left to their own devices, completely free, women will marry the top 10 to 20% of guys. And somebody said this, some popular, like Joan Rivers type. It wasn't Joan Rivers, but somebody said like in the 90s, I'd rather share Brad Pitt than date Bobo the Clown. And it was like a joke, joking nice. But yeah, I think that's just evolutionarily true. And it's kind of also where I think if you're a feminist, it's kind of hard. It puts you in a hard spot because clearly you don't want to revert to the Christian standards. Like that's kind of the whole reason for the feminist movement, right? It's kind of like progressing beyond those values. But this is you have the exact same values then, or the same thing happening as in the pre-Christian, whatever kings and queens, what's his name, Genghis Khan type of structure of a few men reproducing. Elon Musk, for example, right? Like how many kids has he got? Like 15, right?
Who knows, right?
Who knows? But it's really moving towards actually it's not going back to the 1600s. It's going back to like the 500s or the 500 BC.
I mean,
but I mean,
a circle always goes back to the beginning, Brian.
Yeah, right. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. But the woke right is what I wanted to talk about with you, because you said this on our Disney podcast or Star Wars podcast. So who do you think, and I remember what you said before, but I want you to repeat, who do you think are like, name like 3 woke right people?
Jordan Peterson would be woke right. I don't know these people well enough. Is Dinesh D'Souza? Chamath is woke right. Chamath is woke right.
So okay, I do know about this, of course, right? I need my internet connection to be out for longer than 3 days.
Yeah.
James Lindsay popularized the woke right. He might not have coined the term, but he might have. But he's definitely been pushing it, and it's been picked up by so the divide is Zionism, anti-Zionism.
Okay.
So it's people on the right. Now they probably would not frame it this way, of course not. But that's what it is. People who like Dave Smith, who's a libertarian anti-war guy. Anyone who's anti-war will be, right. They will try to smear them with being woke, right? And it's Jordan Peterson is trying to smear people on the right with this term. And when you mentioned that it was Jordan Peterson, it just made me so, it's just so interesting, because it's so funny that they think they're doing this smear campaign, and in so many people's heads, they just associate them as the woke right. Like that, it's going to be used against them, even though they created it. Jordan Peterson, James Lindsay, like there'll be a certain percentage of the population is like, no, I thought you were the woke right. Like, no, I invented woke right.
Well, so I guess I should clarify. When I say woke right, this is how I would define it. I would define it as anyone who said that Trump was playing 4D chess with the tariffs, who just like was so stupid and short-sighted that they're just like, yeah, dude, obviously it's good when the stock market goes down. I don't know what of course it's good when the stock and if you and then obviously in the converse when the stocks start to go back up, obviously it's good when the stock market goes up. What are you stupid? Like basically I would say woke right. To me, it's the conservative or right wing version of the blue haired barista, right? I
Yeah.
just these are to me these are the same people. These hysterical, emotion having. I mean, really, I guess they're kind of NPCs because they're just so obviously swayed by what people tell them to think and believe. It's no different to me. Just like because obviously there was a time in American history where like being woke was the base level for people, right? And now for this interregnum, the thing to do is like call people gay and be like, yeah, dude, Trump, man, so sick, crushing beers and listening to country, like you know what I'm saying, like American
Try
flags.
that in a small town.
Yeah, try that. Like that is like how people are expected to behave now. Um, and if you base your personality on like if you were posting BLM stuff in 2020 and are now like actually tariffs are kind of a good idea. You guys just don't understand. Then like you are an NPC. Like you are just a big stupid idiot basically. Which is most exemplified to me because I spend too much time online of like Chamath. Chamath is the most like whatever I just saw was the thing that is most important to me.
It feels like with your explanation there that like woke right is going to be just like the definitions of red pill and the definitions of woke is like everyone has 100 different definitions for these
Right.
things, and
Exactly.
it's already achieving, it's already being ruined. Like their attempt, like because like red pill, like I told you, red pill. I think I'm right. I think red pill means the realization like that the media is lying, the media has been lying to you, and that maybe the narrative you were told in 8th grade civics class isn't exactly how things run. That's what red pill was to me 15 years ago or whatever when I first heard the term. Now it means like men's rights and all this other stuff.
Right.
I'm telling you, woke right just means Zionism and anti-Zionism. That's what it means. Now it's going to get all this new people using it. I'm assuming it'll last for a little bit here. I think it still has some more steam to
I
go.
I got a take for you.
I
I
want to talk
think
about tariffs, but go ahead.
I don't the tariff thing is I think the tariff thing is very easily explained by Donald Trump not actually understanding what a trade deficit is, and that is where the whole thing originated from. But my take is that I think Trump's handlers have actually overplayed their hand a little bit. Stephen Miller and these guys, I think they've overplayed their hand a little bit, and it probably is not going to impact them much in the 2026 elections because there's such a cry more lib spirit going on. But
Uh-huh.
I do think by 2028, they have overplayed their hand to such a degree that they're actually not going to have built the position of power that they think they will.
I feel that way too. And then like sometimes I'll see some polls and it's like, no, he actually hasn't gone down at all. I'm like, I don't know if it feels like speaking, totally anecdotally, is like it feels like you're right. Like he's lost some steam. I've gotten comments from guys who normally wouldn't care, like maybe they won't vote for Trump, but they don't give a shit, who are like, what's he fucking doing? It's like, ooh,
Yes.
that's like a jump the shark moment right there. This guy
Yeah.
should not be texting me about Trump.
So anecdotally, same thing for me. I don't really care what the data says, particularly after how bad polling has been in the last 3 elections.
Yeah.
It's been ass. I think undeniably you have to say the vibes. There's been a real bad vibe shift against that type of person in the last, like, I'd say the tariffs started it, and it just feels like
the immigration one is it's a little hit or miss. I think it's hurt a little bit, but not as bad as the tariffs. But that's why I wanted to talk about tariffs, because I totally agree with you. Like his staff is like, who is fucking helping him? So here's what I would do. No, first of all, what is the income tax except a tariff on individual work?
What is income tax but a tariff on individual work?
Yeah, it's identical.
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the things. That's one of the things that Trump says. He said, "Oh, we used to just not have income tax. We paid for it all with tariffs."
Yeah, a corporate tax is the same thing. So
yeah,
this is why it's always funny to me that like these like liberal outlets and stuff are like, oh my God, let's get into the details of the economics of how tariffs hurt you. It's like, you aren't saying that shit about all these other different taxes and fees and stuff. And it's funny too, whenever like with Doge, when you finally have a somebody's like, okay, we're gonna start cutting stuff. It's like, no, don't cut anything. But like leaving that aside, just like from a strategy standpoint, he should have just fucking been honest. And like, I don't know if you saw his instead of your daughter having $30, you could have $2 comment.
Yeah. You think that's going to work out well? You think suggesting to the people who voted for you that they should be communists?
Isn't that not hilarious? The guy with like golden fucking airplanes is like, oh, let's moderation here, folks. Let's have some Donald Trump of all people.
You guys
the
don't
gaudiest leader of all time.
Yeah, Donald Trump is playing 4D chess. You guys are just too stupid to see what he's doing.
So what I would have done is you go first of all, you got to hammer that the tariffs are to bring jobs back to America. And so like you go, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get rid of taxes for anyone making under 200 grand, something like that. Anyone making under 200 grand, zero taxes. And we're going to replace that with these tariffs. That should have been the strategy from the start. And then go, listen, the shit from China's like toys. Like, I think that's what he was trying to play. Like, it's toys.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who gives a shit? Fine. Do that angle. You'd be like, listen, your daughter her Barbie doll might go up for $2, but her dad might have a job next year. You play that. It's always about transferring the money we need, quote unquote, for the government. I think they shouldn't have any of this shit, but like if you're going to play this game, and then you start getting the Democrats on, or the media, whoever's interviewing, on the back foot. Like, listen, do you want no taxes? Like, do you want the government to have no money? Because of course they do. They won't love the government having money. Like, we got to get it from somewhere. And what is the personal income tax or the corporate tax but a tariff on individual work or individual production or corporate production? And so we're going to transfer that to other countries. And it's gotten so like their strategy, their messaging so bad that I haven't heard anyone, even like any of the economists, like the libertarian economists, of course, hate tariffs. And it's like, yeah, but like, I know you don't want any taxes, libertarian guy.
Right.
But like, they're going to tax us, right? One way or another, someone's paying for this fucking behemoth. And there's 37 trillion in debt or whatever. Like, we're not getting a jail out of free. They fucked us. Wouldn't you rather have it tariffs? I think that's like the best messaging, obvious messaging that I would have like advised him to do. And I don't think that's like super smart or creative. And like, instead it's like what you said, it's like gotten so dumb and bad that I'm getting calls from like my bro who like,
no, dude, we're reopening Alcatraz, man.
Well, I don't know about the immigration thing. I would say it's maybe a slight negative for his re-election thing. But like, we're not making claims on what's good and what's bad here, really. I'm just like, I feel like it's it's like slightly negative. And I feel like Alcatraz is another piece. I think he's doing the now. I do not want to do the 4D chess thing, because I know he doesn't do 4D chess. But I think, he's not a complete idiot either. I think the El Salvador thing and the Alcatraz thing is to scare people from coming. I think that's I think that's it. I mean, it could just be he's that dumb and thinks it's cool. Maybe.
Escape from Alcatraz was on in South Florida on Saturday night, and then Sunday morning was when he announced that Alcatraz was opening back up. So
the Clint Eastwood one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's classic.
So I guess let's end it. Let's end it with this. One of the last time that we did this show, you were down to 40% that Donald Trump is like a serious person who actually is going to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
And
Elon, yeah.
And Elon. So Elon's already out. Elon and Trump are feuding. Elon is moving on. He was tweeting about it the other day. He's got some new project. The Department of Governmental Efficiency is over. Remember Vivek Ramaswamy? Remember him when he was involved? Boy, that was a tweet that changed the course of his career.
Oh yeah, when he wanted more H-1B visas or whatever.
Yeah.
Like who? Wow, surprising. The dude from India wants H-1B visas. Like,
yeah. So what is your meter at of if Donald Trump is really a serious person who is here to fix the ills of the United States federal government?
Yeah, I do have to clarify though. I was never a serious person. Like it was more like the reasoning I went up to 40% or whatever was like the dude had an assassination attempt. The bullet whizzed past his ear, hit his ear. Elon Musk, they're clearly trying to ruin him. They tried to put Trump in jail for like 8 years straight. Elon Musk, he's got to think that they're coming after his businesses, and probably jail too if they lose both the House, the Senate, and the White House, the Congress and the White House. It just seems like they would actually try to like fire people, arrest some people for like clear, illegal violations, which how can they not find a ton of them, like if you're going through the numbers. That's what I was more saying. Like they'll do something. It seems like they haven't really done much.
Man, if only there was any way to have predicted that they would just keep shipping out money, and the deficit, of course, higher today than it was 100 days ago. No way to have predicted that. But hey, man, at least Harvard is not going to be doing any more government-funded research. Am I right?
Well, I mean, I think that those USAID like cuts, like I guarantee all those were legitimate waste of money. Like
sure, I of course get rid. Like there's been this really interesting thing, and I think this is actually good. Like Mark Cuban and some other famous libs have actually, instead of just defending their party to the hilt, being like, yeah, you know what? There was some government waste, and I'm glad that Elon cut it. Very, very hard for people in the public eye to just be like a 3% humble and admit that your quote unquote team, because people know that I'm a lib. They expect me to be like, yeah, do you love funding Ugandan gender equality? And I'm like, not really. No, I don't actually. Now there are and this is maybe too far deep down the rabbit hole. Now there were some things that were mistaken over the course of these things. Like there was remember that study about transgenic frogs versus transgender frogs? This is, I'm not even complaining about this because this is the job of the media. The job of Fox News and One American or whatever is to get their viewers angry. The same way it's MSNBC's job. The only person you have to blame for getting mad at MSNBC is the person who's brain poisoned enough to watch either of these networks. But I will say anything good that I thought Don was going to do, cut the war spending, that's not happening. Buying Bitcoin, that's not going to happen.
Well, my judgment wasn't what I want. It was more what I think
what he said he was going to do,
expected. Yes. And so first of all, that would have been immigration, a lot of deportations. Those numbers right now are under Biden's. If you aggregate it out the rest of the year or appropriate it out, whatever the word is. Now, some of that is a little different because they count they count if someone tries to cross the border and they say you're not welcome, that counts as a deportation in the numbers, and they're not coming now as much as
Sure.
under Biden. So like those numbers are a little tricky to actually calculate based on who's in charge. I would say if they cut $1 trillion or more, that's pretty darn good. I think they're at 150 or 160 billion. If he ends one of the wars, so let's say he gets $1 trillion, ends the wars, and gets the deportation numbers up, I would say that beats my 40%. Like I said, 40%, which I'm lower now. Obviously, I'm not sure any of that happens. Like 20%, but I would say those from a MAGA perspective would be a win. If you end the war in Ukraine, the deportation crossings is at an all-time low. The deportation numbers is at least higher than Brock. And then and you cut $1 trillion. I don't think that's impossible. I still think 20-30% chance that can happen.
So we're down to, for the viewers at home, we're down to 20-30%. I think there's just something very funny about Donald Trump where like he's like kind of funny, so people just kind of like want to believe him. Even if you hate Donald Trump, you're like, I don't know, man, he is pretty funny.
He's funny. Come on.
Yeah.
Like that Pope thing.
I'm happy to although seems misguided from a guy who, like, if he did lose conservative voters, his party would be like totally dusted. Like if the Republicans lost religious voters, they'd be finished to just like engage in sacrilege. I don't know. He's unserious.
It might not be a good strategy, but it was funny.
Yeah, I'm glad to be done with Elon. And one, I'm glad to be done with Elon because he's very annoying. I'm also glad to be done with Elon so that maybe there's a chance that he actually uses his immense wealth for something good in the world. Also, just so like libs don't have to talk about him anymore, because libs talking about Elon, very annoying.
It would have been better if he was low profile, but I think he
doesn't want to do that though.
Right, yeah. And it probably helped, honestly. He probably did get him millions of votes or whatever. I don't know how many, but he's super popular, man. So like I bet he got him votes that he needed, but it would have been better if he's done. But if Doge goes away, by the way, so like I was thinking about this, there's probably people who love Doge and they don't want it to go away. I actually kind of think that's a good thing because, you know, like there's that Milton Friedman quote, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. And so like the longer Doge goes on and then new administrations come in and Congresses change and then pass laws on what Doge can do and what can't, and they expressly write it out, it's going to become neutered or co-opted. So I think it's almost better that they just do 2 years, adios, Doge is gone. And then, you know, there's nothing they can do. And then when you get power again, assuming they lose, you bring it back. Or if you win, or if you just win again in 2028, you bring it back. Just bring it back, do another 2 years. So like, I don't think it's actually the worst thing in the world for Elon to leave and then to go away. I still think he's going to be involved until next year. I don't believe he's out. He can't, man. He's got to do more work because they're going to come after him. So he's got to get his money's worth.
Well, the issue is that Donald hates him now. Like he just doesn't want to be like, which totally makes sense. To me, it totally makes sense because Don seems like a guy with very little patience. And Elon is not charming enough to like butter him up. You know what I mean? Like Elon probably wants to be serious all the time. It'd be like, this, the fate of the world is on this. And Donald's like, dude, I just want to go golf. Like, will you shut up?
I gotta get this Pope AI Pope picture out.
Yeah, dude, I gotta have like, hey, Elon, when I type this into your Grok machine, it's not giving me what I want. Will you fix that?
Can you imagine being there? Your Trump's, because I know we've seen footage. He has an assistant typing his stuff up for Twitter and True Social. Can you imagine his assistants like going through AI photoshops of Trump in the Pope's garb? And he's like, how about that one? No. How about this one? Oh, that's perfect. Send it. Can you imagine just being in that room where the president is like going looking at which AI Photoshop picture of himself to make this joke? It's insane that happened.
It's completely insane. Report this last week from Politico, Kamala Harris eyeing a run in 2028.
Oh, come on.
If that happens, I think it might be just done voting.
Yeah, join the club.
I mean, I say that, but I wouldn't really. She'd get my vote again. Because I didn't want to vote for this. I didn't really, didn't really want to vote for her this time, but it's my duty. It's my duty to vote blue no matter who.
I told you I was talking to that politician here who is going to help Pritzker run for president, and I was telling him like he has no chance. Like there's no like those type like Kamala, JB Pritzker, Elizabeth Warren. They're never going to win again. It's over. You can't.
No, it's over.
It's over for that type of. I mean, Pritzker for lots of reasons, but like the kind of. Did you see? What was it? It was Elizabeth Warren. She did a podcast with this lefty guy.
Yeah,
he was just like 30 something, probably around your age, longer hair, lefty guy, and but like asked her real questions.
Yes, I did see this.
Why did you say Biden was sharp as he's ever been? And she so she's expecting this like fun softball lefty interview, and he actually pressed her on it a little bit, and they can't do podcasts, and like so no one's gonna believe you. Like the only way is to get like maybe AOC could pull it off.
I was gonna say, just can we just fast like me personally, I would like to just fast forward to Queen Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
I think she's 50-50 to run.
Well, I mean, you want to know the issue with her, man. Why the Dems don't want her. She's one of the only people who've spoken up about the genocide.
But she's gotten in line pretty good for most things. She's not as radical as she was when she first.
I gotta say, they probably hate her right now because she's doing these rallies with Bernie, and they're stopping just short of saying we're a third party. Like her and Bernie, when they talk, they're stopping just short of saying, actually, we are doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. See, like Bernie could kind of podcast because he like believes what he says, and he's been saying it for years.
He's a million years old, though.
No, he can't run anymore. And also, if I was a Democrat, I would not vote for him because he totally sold out. They fucked him over, and he just took it and then endorsed Hillary. I would never vote for him. I don't think I think he's betrayed his morals too. But I'm just saying, like from like the modern way people take in content is not through CNN. They can't take a junior senator from Illinois with the middle name Hussein and blow him up to get 100 million votes or whatever it's going to take. They can't do that anymore. So like you're gonna have to go on Theo Vaughn. Like you're gonna have to go on.
Yeah. I would.
Podcasts.
I would love to live an alternate timeline where Kamala goes on Rogan after Trump, because you know how dumb Rogan is. Like if Kamala came on after, there's a good chance that he'd be like, that was great, I'm endorsing Kamala Harris for president. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he just is he's so gullible.
It's possible he would have been nice to her and stuff. He probably the problem why she couldn't go on. First of all, I don't think she's got the chops. Same thing with Elizabeth Warren. They can't do podcasts. They can't talk. And is also too like if like he goes, like, well, what about COVID? And here's some things about COVID that I didn't like. She I don't think she's equipped to answer those. I think she comes off bad. Like not just her, just anyone. It's hard to defend.
Yeah,
the COVID regime.
Yeah, it'll be very.
And but she has to.
Yeah, and I would say also don't do what Gavin Newsom did, which is Gavin Newsom has just like cocked himself. He went on that.
He's a liar too, though.
Yeah, he went on Charlie Kirk or whatever. Yeah. Man, if I had 2 bullets in Charlie Kirk and Hitler, I might do Charlie Kirk.
Oh my God. But like that's a good example. So Newsom can talk, he could podcast, but the problem is he just lies.
Yeah, he just lies.
And you can't. Everything's on record now. These boomers don't get it. It's like, dude. And then so like when he said, I don't know, whatever he said. I never used the term woke or whatever he said. Like I never used the term trans or I never pushed like trans should be in women's sports or something like that. Whatever it was, even the lefties go, here's a 20-minute clip of you saying this. You're that, clearly showing you're lying over the last 15 years. Like his own supporters calling him out.
You know what? I think AOC can win. I think AOC is funny and personable enough. She could do podcast. Like, why can't AOC just be the president?
I think she's got a better chance than
she would. I'll tell you what,
J.D.
she
Pritzker.
would do campaigning against Donald. She would own him. She's more fluent in the internet than his aides. Like she would crush him.
Maybe so. But either way, like I think it's got to be someone younger who can do podcast, and also you want someone not from the machine because they're too. I mean, obviously they're corrupted, but they're too, like the thing I just explained with Gavin Newsom. There's too much on record. It's too hard to be someone who's been in politics for 35 years in modern times and be able to defend your record in this super polarizing world. Like, so you just need someone younger, who could go on a podcast and be like, yeah, like they've lied about weapons of mass destruction and they all should go to jail. And you could believably say that because you weren't there. You're on record of not supporting that because you're only 40 years old or something.
Yeah, people have already forgotten lying about weapons of mass destruction. People like tweet like, "Oh, George Bush is a cute grandpa."
Right. That's just anti-Trump stuff.
Yeah.
Like when they paraded fucking Dick Cheney up. It's like, are you guys insane to use Dick Cheney to try to get a Democratic candidate elected? This is like the worst idea ever. It's just because it's he hates Trump, Trump hates him. Maybe we can get a couple of those never Trumpers to vote for Kamala. Like all that shit. It's just, especially 4 years from now. 4 years from now, a lot of these boomers aren't going to be around. I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. It's just a fact of life. And so, and I sent you that little poll of the young guys in high school, like are not down with feminism, let's just say. And it showed in the election, young guys swayed Republican more than ever. And just, again, anecdotally, watching Twitch and all the, other stuff, stuff like that, like young people, they are not having it. I think part of it is that 80-20 thing I was talking about earlier. I think dudes especially are not chill with this new dynamic of, the Chicago White Sox railing all your girls, like they are not chill with that. And it's, what do you expect dudes, like if you get 60-70% of dudes who aren't getting laid and like they have no benefits in society, like they don't get, like free money or free loans or anything like that. Like, what do you expect is going to happen?
I don't know.
Yeah, which is why Christianity was probably invented, right? It's like, we got to get these motherfuckers under control. Let's force them to like have kids.
Yeah, I mean, so much of like the last 100 years of society is like what happens when the primary ruling power goes away, right? Yeah, the moral center of the universe has been Christianity.
Yeah, and it looks not great.
No,
it looks not great. Yeah,
no.
It reminds me of this line I heard the other day. It's like the revolution doesn't stop with you. So like you go like this far, no further. Like we just want to have this new right for this new group. It's no big deal, just this one thing. And then it goes past you, and you go like, "Hey, hold on, slow down. This is going too far." And it's like the revolution doesn't stop with you. So like, yeah, it's interesting times we live in, but I do think that keeping your eye on that, the dynamic, that 80-20 dynamic of men and women, because once you get like 70-80%, if 80% of men decide something's going to happen, it's going to happen. I mean, they might be pacified with like porn and weed and video games and shit and not do anything, but if they wanted to, They can do whatever the fuck they want. And so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, the internet is God now.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like politics is kind of God. You know, like people have substituted politics as their religion. Not everyone.
Not everyone.
Well,
Everyone finds their thing though.
I mean, sports, including some people with sports.
Including, by the way, people are now finding God again. Apparently Catholicism is now very popular with young people again.
I just don't see how. I think there needs to be like a new Catholicism, like a new Christianity somehow, a new God, a new mythos. Maybe it'd be AI. I don't know, but like I just don't see it going back.
AI will solve all of it.
I don't see it going back. I do see like this trend shift, like, and then like as like guys want that more, some girls will be like, okay, I'll trad wife it up. You know, if this is what guys want, then this is how I will behave. So like I could see it trending in that direction. I have no idea where it ends up. I just don't see going back to the peak of Christianity. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. All right, man.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. RunTheSims.com. There are Major League Baseball DFS projections on Run the Sims now. Cooking up stuff for the NFL season. Got anything new on Endgame?
MLB projections, and we got them on the draft caddy too. So like if you hand build, the projections just show up right there, and it's $10 a month for just the MLB projections. If you like hand build a couple lineups, maybe that's worth it for you.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Everyone, like the video, subscribe if you're listening on the podcast feed, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and we will be back with you guys. Actually, there's a bonus episode of this show that you'll be able to listen to Thursday morning, and more bonus episodes if you enjoyed that, and we'll see you soon.